Hi, I'm Paul Hopkinson. Now I'm going to show you some clips of my main watercolour video on how to paint a very colourful goldfinch. Let's get started. So we got some cerulean blue, and then on top of that I'm going to get a little bit more of that French ultramarine, or ultramarine, depends on what you call it, and that'll do for some of the highlight colour within the eye as well. So that basically is it. So just shift these back again a minute. Back to the painting. Quite handy when you're running out of paint because you can really fine tune things when you haven't got much paint on your brush. I've said this many times in the past, is that if you've got a brush that's getting dry, that you need to reload, try and make use of it before you reload it. Try and make use of the dry kind of brush because you can get some nice little texture effects as well. Okay, so that's the kind of shape we're looking for the middle, because you can see at the bottom right hand corner it kind of hooks out, so it's like a hook like that, isn't it? Get it in there. Oh, that's plenty. Just mix that in there. Need that bright colour underneath, remember, for this to work. Remember, this is also milky, kind of watery, milky consistency. This is not very thick. And I do that to begin with because it just gives you more time or more ability to be able to layer the paints as we go along. Now the 50-50 and the painting at the same time. Now this tends to hook down, doesn't it? So I'm just on the very edge of the highlight spot. That's it. The very edge, and there's a couple of tiny taps just to the top, around there. So delicate, and then to there. Little circles, just blend it to the very edge of that line. And that really is it for the front part of that area there. And then we can start to define things as we go along. If you think there's not enough shape there, because it is very white on this top part of the beak, it really is very white, I'm going to re-wet that area there. That's better. And then start bringing this side, because the eye was looking quite disjointed, wasn't it? It was looking a bit out there on its own, poor thing. So now we're bringing it back into focus. I know, that was nearly a joke. And then down. Terrible. Looking at where it comes down to. Keep looking at your photo. Right, okay, here we go. Ready for this. I'm going to pop this colour in. No! Yes, trust me. No, you can't be doing that. Right, pop it in. Alright, like that. I'm going to wash the brush out and come back in. I'm going to blend this now just into this white area, this stripy area on the side. Blend it in, and if you want to as well, you can pull a few odd ones out here and there on the side. Just pull a few, just not too neat. Trying to go into the red though, so try and leave the red to one side. Okay, try and do it once it's nice and damp. Now this will dry lighter, don't forget. So it will dry a little bit lighter. But we need this underneath, just so we can think about getting that lighter colour on the top. I'm going to wash the brush out, just dampen this down. All the way to the bottom. There's a few little strandy bits that kind of flick out here, so remember to do it from the inside out. So you get a nice tapered line. Not too many though. One up there. That's it, just to there. So let's get the yellow in first. So all the way down to the bottom. We'll put some dark colour around the edges of this anyway, so we can really kind of tidy it up and sink it in. And then up the side. I want this to dry fairly bright. I'm going to add a little bit more over the top. I want this to stand out. Quite white at the back there, but I need to put a little bit of suggestion of colour in there because we're not going to be able to see the white paint, are we? So I'm going to put it over the top. So that's nearly there. We can go over the top again with another layer. And by doing so, we'll get that a little bit darker in places. So I suggest you do that just in place. Don't cover all the little white gaps up there because you want to maintain those little tiny gaps in there, really. But initially, I'm going to show you with just using the fine 00 brush what I'm going to use. So this is that raw sienna with that touch of burnt sienna in it. And I'm looking at the direction that these feathers go. So I'm going to start on the back, right from the very edge of the back and start working my way down as we go. But I'm also going to be looking at the direction that the feathers go in as well. That's so important. I know I keep saying it, but put fewer little marks in, so not quite as many. That way it could gradually blend out from light or from dark to light on that particular colour. So again, we'll pop some darker colour in there, but we just need this mid-tone in there first. Right, for the fourth and final layer on the feathers, I know, lots of layers, but that's what gives us that kind of feeling of depth and realism to a certain degree, is having those layers and working on one by one. And then we can start to define where things go. I'm going to start picking out the lines now. So it's like a greeny colour really, but even though it won't look that green on the paper, because we've got some bright yellow underneath. So that'll kind of heighten it anyway in colour. So bringing that up, get some more. Just lightly soften it, just give it a tweak. And that's plenty actually on there. And just reinforce the dark area between these feathers. So this is also the dark area, so that obviously feathers on the top of this one, as you can see from the shadow. So just want to reinforce that in there. And then pick them out. Right, so I'm going to start from the back leg. I've outlined it briefly. I'm going to blend that in shortly, don't worry. You know I don't like outlines. And the same line here as well. And there's a few little marks and hooks as they come around inside. A few little squiggles in there. This would be better if you do upwards. So if you're right-handed, it might be a little bit easier. Again, if you're left-handed like me, turn the board around so you can flick them out and taper them away, like I've been showing you for the other ones. And there's a tiny bit there, and a little bit more in there as well. I'll tell you what I'm going to do, you know, with this one. I'm going to put a little vein line. I mentioned it earlier. Barely touching that paper. The brush is just about dry, you see, so I can use it for that. And that's plenty. That's all we need. And once it's dry, we'll add a little bit more over the top of this colour as well. So as I said, we're just gradually building up the detail before we start going in with a fine detail brush and start adding all these lovely details in. Some like purpley blue, which we're going to be using in there. Now, okay, all you need to do now is just fine tune some of the areas. And all I mean by doing that is just by going back in with your purpley colour again, your dark purpley colour. Make sure it's to a creamy mix, so it's not too watery. Then start every now and then, put a darker line in there, nice squiggly line, just very lightly. That's all you got to do. If you start going over the top of that white again, as I said before, that white will start to blend and disappear on you. Then you have to redo that white again, which isn't a problem, I know, but it's a bit of a pain when you just put it all on there. I'm going to add a little bit more around this side as well. So I say just the odd sparkle here and there, just to finish it off, and then we should have ourselves a finished painting. So there you go, that's how to paint a goldfinch in watercolour. And this is over 3 hours of watercolour tuition. Now if you fancy having a go at one of my watercolour lessons for free, I've got one on there just for you on how to paint a robin in watercolour. Now if you enjoyed this video, please click on subscribe down below. And if you think this is just the right thing for you to learn to do, to be able to access dozens of video lessons, just click on become a patron and I'll see you there.